They thought I was a joke. My own family. Standing there in their pristine suburban driveways with their BMWs and Mercedes, watching me pull up in my beat-up 1998 Honda Civic with the dented bumper and the exhaust that sounded like a chainsaw having an asthma attack. The paint was so faded you couldn't tell if it was originally blue or gray, and the passenger door made this god-awful screech every time someone opened it. But here's the thing about being underestimated, it's the most powerful fuel you can ever have. While they were busy making jokes about my clunker at every family gathering, posting passive-aggressive comments on Facebook about some people who need to get their priorities straight, I was building something they couldn't even comprehend. Something that would eventually roll up their perfect little cul-de-sac and shatter every assumption they'd ever made about me. My name is Jake, and this is the story of how I went from being the family disappointment, the one who couldn't even afford a decent car, to owning a fleet of luxury vehicles that would make their monthly payments look like pocket change. It's about the secret I kept for 3 years while they mocked me, and the moment I finally revealed it in the most spectacular way possible. See, success isn't always about proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, just sometimes, karma comes wrapped in Italian leather seats and a V8 engine that purrs like a satisfied lion. This is one of those times. What happened next changed everything between us forever, and I guarantee you won't see the ending coming. Trust me, neither did they. Growing up in suburban Denver, Colorado, the Hendersons were what you'd call, keeping up with the Joneses, professionals. My dad, Richard, was a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, and my mom, Patricia, worked as a dental hygienist. Middle-class comfort with upper-class aspirations, that was our family motto, even if nobody ever said it out loud. But the real power player in our family wasn't either of my parents. It was my older brother, Marcus. Golden boy Marcus with his MBA from University of Colorado Boulder, his corner office downtown, his Tesla Model S, and his picture-perfect wife Sarah who worked in real estate. Marcus lived in Cherry Creek, Denver's answer to Beverly Hills, in a house that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. Every family gathering was essentially a showcase for Marcus's latest achievement, while I sat there like the opening act nobody really wanted to see. The hierarchy was established early. I remember being 12 years old at our annual 4th of July barbecue. All the extended family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole Colorado Henderson clan gathered in my parents' backyard in Littleton. Marcus had just gotten his first real job after college, and Dad was practically bursting with pride, telling everyone within earshot about his son's starting salary. When Uncle Bill asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said I wanted to start my own business. The entire table went quiet for about 3 seconds before everyone burst into laughter. "That's cute, Jake," Aunt Linda said, ruffling my hair. "But maybe you should focus on getting good grades first." Marcus smirked from across the table. "Yeah, little bro, maybe start with a lemonade stand." That moment crystallized everything. In the Henderson family, there were winners and there were dreamers, and dreamers were just winners who hadn't faced reality yet. The pattern continued into high school. While Marcus was getting acceptance letters from prestigious universities, I was getting lectures about my unrealistic expectations. When I told them I wanted to study entrepreneurship instead of following Marcus into traditional business, Dad actually laughed. Entrepreneurship isn't a major, Jake. It's what people call unemployment with a business plan. But the real humiliation came during my senior year. We were at Marcus's graduation party from CU Boulder. He'd landed a job at a Fortune 500 company before he even walked across the stage. The whole family was there, plus Sarah's family, plus what felt like half of Denver's professional network. I was 17, awkward, and wearing a suit that didn't fit right. Someone asked what my plans were for college, and when I mentioned I was considering community college to save money while I figured things out, the conversation died faster than a phone battery at 1%. Linda, said I can still hear her voice, said, "Oh honey, that's practical." The way she said, practical, made it sound like a terminal diagnosis. Marcus jumped in with his trademark older brother wisdom. "There's nothing wrong with being realistic about your limitations, Jake. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real university coursework." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom with its faded Colorado Rockies posters and secondhand furniture, I made myself a promise. I was going to prove every single one of them wrong, but I was going to do it on such a massive scale that they'd never recover from the shock. The grand gesture I'd been planning was simple: show up to Marcus's upcoming housewarming party, his second house, naturally, a sprawling ranch in Highlands Ranch that cost more than most people see in a lifetime. Show up in style. Show up in a way that would make every snarky comment, every dismissive laugh, every condescending pat on the head feel like the bitter taste of eating your own words. But I had a secret. Something I'd been working on for 3 years that none of them knew about. Something that was about to change the entire dynamic of our family forever. The plan was already in motion. The pieces were falling into place. And the best part? They had absolutely no idea what was coming. Where are you watching this from? Drop a comment and let me know what country or state you're in. I love connecting with people from all over the world who understand what it's like to be underestimated by the people who should believe in you most. The invitation came on cream-colored cardstock. Because of course it did. Marcus and Sarah Henderson request your presence at a housewarming celebration. The address was in Highlands Ranch, one of those master plan communities south of Denver where every house looks like it was designed by the same architect who had a serious obsession with stone facades and 3-car garages. I'd been dreading this party for weeks, but also secretly anticipating it. This was going to be the moment. 3 years of keeping my mouth shut, 3 years of letting them think I was still the same broke kid driving around in a car held together with duct tape and prayer. 3 years of building something in complete silence while they continued their family tradition of treating me like the consolation prize. The preparations for Marcus's party were, predictably, over the top. Mom had been texting the family group chat for 2 weeks about what everyone was bringing: artisanal cheeses, organic wine, locally sourced whatever the hell. I volunteered to bring beer, which earned me exactly the reaction you'd expect. That's sweet, Jake, but maybe grab something from Whole Foods instead of Coors Light? The morning of the party, I was standing in my apartment in Capitol Hill, a decent one-bedroom I'd been renting while everyone assumed I was still living paycheck to paycheck. My phone buzzed with messages from the family chat. Dad, looking forward to seeing everyone at Marcus's beautiful new home. Mom, so proud of our successful son. Uncle Bill, can't wait to see this palace. Nobody mentioned me. Nobody ever mentioned me. But today was different. Today, I had a surprise that was going to rewrite the entire narrative they'd constructed about our family dynamics. At 4 p.m., I got the text I'd been waiting for. Package delivered successfully. Keys are in the hidden compartment as requested. My hands were actually shaking as I read it. This was really happening. I threw on my best outfit, and yes, I actually had a best outfit now, Armani, that fit like it was tailored for me because it was. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was probably wearing more money than my old Honda was worth, but nobody was going to know that. The drive to Highlands Ranch felt like the longest 30 minutes of my life. I kept thinking about all the moments that led to this, every snide comment, every family dinner where my achievements went unmentioned while Marcus's latest promotion got a standing ovation, every time someone asked when I was going to get serious about my life. I pulled into the neighborhood at exactly 6 p.m. The party was already in full swing. I could hear laughter and conversation drifting from Marcus's backyard, which probably cost more to landscape than most people's entire houses. Cars lined the street. Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, a couple of Range Rovers. The Henderson family and their circle didn't mess around when it came to automotive statements. And there, taking up prime real estate in the driveway, was Marcus's pride and joy, his Tesla Model S, gleaming white with those custom rims he never stopped talking about. Next to it, Dad's Lexus ES, polished to showroom perfection. Even Uncle Bill had driven his new Lincoln Navigator, because God forbid anyone show up in something that depreciated more than 10% the moment they drove it off the lot. I parked my Honda around the corner, out of sight. One last ride in the car that had carried me through the hardest years of my life, through late nights and early mornings, through the period when everyone thought I was going nowhere fast. In about 20 minutes, I'd be saying goodbye to this chapter forever. Walking up to the house, I could hear Marcus's voice booming from the backyard. probably regaling someone with stories about his latest business triumph. The sound of success, according to the Henderson family playbook. But success, I'd learned, isn't always about the volume of your voice. Sometimes it's about the size of your silence before you break it. Sarah answered the door, looking effortlessly perfect in that way that comes from having a personal trainer and a skincare budget bigger than most car payments. "Jake, you made it," she said, with that enthusiasm that doesn't quite reach the eyes. "Everyone's out back. Marcus has been dying to show off the outdoor kitchen." Of course he had. I made my way through the house, past the marble countertops and the custom millwork, past the family photos that featured a lot more Marcus than anyone else. The backyard was something else entirely, a full outdoor entertaining space with a built-in grill that probably cost more than I used to make in 6 months, a fire pit surrounded by furniture that looked like it belonged in a resort, and a view of the Front Range Mountains that made you understand why people paid premium prices to live out here. "Jake." Dad's voice cut through the crowd. "There's our wandering son." A few people turned to look, and I caught the familiar mixture of polite interest and barely concealed pity. Poor Jake, still figuring things out while his brother conquers the world. Marcus appeared at my elbow with a beer, craft, local, probably $8 a bottle. "Good to see you, little brother. How's the job search going?" There was the casual knife twist that Marcus had perfected over the years. Asked with just enough genuine concern that calling him out would make me look paranoid, but with enough underlying condescension to make sure everyone within earshot understood our respective positions in the family hierarchy. "Actually," I said, "things are going really well." "That's great to hear," he said, already looking past me toward someone more important. "We should catch up later." The party continued around us. Conversations about stock portfolios and vacation homes, complaints about property taxes and private school tuition. The beautiful, insular world of people who'd never had to worry about making rent or choosing between groceries and gas. And then, at exactly 7:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. "In position. Ready when you are." If you're enjoying this story of family dynamics and hidden success, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers and every single one helps us reach that goal. Your support means everything. I excused myself from the conversation and walked toward the front of the house, my heart pounding so hard I was sure people could hear it over the party chatter. This was it. 3 years of planning, 3 years of keeping my mouth shut while they treated me like the family charity case, all leading to this moment. Standing in Marcus's pristine foyer, I could hear Uncle Bill's voice from the backyard. "Jake's always been the dreamer of the family. Some people are built for the real world. Some people, well, some people need more time to figure it out." More laughter. More casual cruelty disguised as family concern. I pulled out my phone and sent the text, "Showtime." 2 minutes later, I heard it. The deep, throaty rumble of a Ferrari 488 GTB pulling into the neighborhood. The sound was unmistakable, like controlled thunder, like power wrapped in Italian engineering. Car enthusiasts know that sound the way musicians know a perfect chord. The conversation in the backyard started to shift. Someone said, "Whose Ferrari is that?" Then another voice, "Holy shit, listen to that engine." Marcus appeared in the doorway, Sarah right behind him. "Someone must be lost," he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. This wasn't the kind of neighborhood where people got lost. This was the kind of neighborhood where you belonged or you didn't. The Ferrari pulled into Marcus's driveway, right next to his Tesla, making his pride and joy look like exactly what it was. A nice car for someone who was doing well for themselves. But next to a $250,000 supercar? It looked like a sensible choice made by someone who thought they understood luxury. The entire party had migrated to the front windows now. Dad, Mom, all the aunts and uncles, the family friends, everyone pressing against the glass like kids at a candy store. The Ferrari sat there gleaming in the late afternoon sun, Rosso Corsa red with carbon fiber accents, looking like it had just rolled off the factory floor in Maranello. "Who the hell drives a Ferrari in this neighborhood?" Uncle Bill muttered. That's when I walked outside. Everyone followed, of course. This was the kind of spectacle that demanded witnesses. Marcus was right beside me, probably running calculations in his head about the owner's net worth, maybe rehearsing the conversation he'd have with his Tesla driving buddies about the neighbor with the Italian exotic. I walked straight to the Ferrari, pulled out the key fob, and the door opened with that distinctive scissor door motion that only exists in automotive fantasies and movies about people who've made it. The silence was profound, like someone had sucked all the air out of the atmosphere. "Jake." Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I turned around to face them, my family, their friends, the entire assembled crowd of people who'd spent years treating me like a cautionary tale about the dangers of unrealistic expectations. "Surprise?" I said. Marcus was the first to find his voice. This isn't yours." "Actually," I said, running my hand along the carbon fiber spoiler, "it is. Just like the McLaren 720S I picked up last month. And the Lamborghini Huracan from 6 months ago. And the Porsche 911 Turbo S that's currently sitting in my garage in Cherry Creek." The words hung in the air like smoke. Someone dropped their beer bottle. I think it might have been Aunt Linda. "What are you talking about?" Dad's voice had that edge it got when he couldn't process what he was hearing. "I'm talking about the business I started 3 years ago. The one you all thought was so funny when I mentioned entrepreneurship. The one that's been generating more revenue per month than Marcus makes in a year." Marcus's face had gone through several color changes, finally settling on a shade that matched his white Tesla. "That's impossible." "Is it?" I opened my phone and pulled up my banking app, the one that showed a balance that made their mortgage payments look like coffee money. 3 years ago, I started developing mobile applications. Nothing fancy, just solving problems that other people were ignoring. While you were all busy explaining to me why I'd never amount to anything, I was building a portfolio of apps that now has over 10 million active users. Sarah was staring at the Ferrari like she was trying to solve a math problem that didn't add up. "You're saying you bought this?" "I'm saying I bought this on Tuesday. For cash. Because when you're pulling in 7 figures a year, a Ferrari stops being a fantasy and starts being a Tuesday afternoon impulse purchase." The crowd had grown. Neighbors were coming out of their houses, drawn by the sound of the Ferrari and the unprecedented sight of drama in their carefully manicured suburb. Uncle Bill, who'd spent years lecturing me about realistic expectations, was opening and closing his mouth like a fish. "But your car," Mom stammered. "Your apartment, you always said." "I said what you wanted to hear," I interrupted. "You all made it very clear that you thought I was a failure, so I let you think it. I drove the Honda because it was paid for and I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I lived modestly because I was reinvesting everything back into my business. And I kept my mouth shut because I wanted to see how long you'd keep treating me like the family disappointment." Marcus finally found his voice again. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone and showed him my company's Inc. 5,000 listing, fastest growing private companies in America. Number 847. Henderson Digital Solutions. That's me. That's my company. That's the business you all thought was so adorable when I was 17. The look on his face was worth every moment of humiliation, every condescending comment, every family gathering where my achievements went unmentioned while his got a parade. "I've been successful for 3 years, I continued. 3 years of watching you all treat me like charity case while I was building something none of you could even comprehend. 3 years of family dinners where you talk about real jobs and practical choices, while I was creating something that employs 47 people and generates enough revenue to buy this entire block. I got in the Ferrari, the engine purring to life with a sound that probably cost more than their monthly salaries. Thanks for the party, Marcus. Beautiful house. Really?" And I drove away, leaving them standing in the driveway with their assumptions shattered and their worldview in pieces, the sound of Italian engineering echoing off their perfect suburban facades. The aftermath was immediate and explosive. My phone started buzzing before I'd even made it to the highway. Text after text, call after call, the family group chat lighting up like a Christmas tree with messages that ranged from shocked to accusatory to desperately apologetic. "Marcus, we need to talk. Now." "Mom, honey, why didn't you tell us?" "Dad, this changes everything. Call me." "Aunt Linda, I always knew you had potential, sweetheart. That last one almost made me laugh out loud. 3 hours ago, Aunt Linda was making jokes about my practical choices. Now suddenly she'd always believed in me? The speed at which family mythology could be rewritten was genuinely impressive. I drove the Ferrari to my real apartment, not the modest one-bedroom in Capitol Hill that everyone thought I lived in, but my actual place, a penthouse in Union Station, downtown Denver's crown jewel, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and the mountains beyond. The same view that cost Marcus a fortune in Highlands Ranch, except I had it without the suburban pretense and the 40-minute commute. But the person I was most eager to talk to wasn't family. It was Jessica. Jessica had been my business partner from the beginning, though partner didn't really capture what she'd become over the past 3 years. She was brilliant, MIT computer science degree, venture capital experience, and the kind of strategic mind that could see 3 moves ahead in any business scenario. She was also the only person who'd known about my family situation and my plan for tonight. "How did it go?" she asked when I walked into my apartment. She was sitting on my couch, laptop open, probably working on our latest acquisition deal. "Better than I imagined," I said, collapsing next to her. Marcus looked like someone had just explained quantum physics to him in ancient Sanskrit. Jessica laughed. "I wish I could have seen that. 3 years of you complaining about family dinners finally paid off." But there was something else I needed to tell her, something that made tonight even more significant than just settling old scores with my family. "Jess, there's something I haven't told you about tonight. About why the timing was so important." She looked up from her laptop, those green eyes that had been part of my life for 3 years now focused entirely on me. "Remember the acquisition offer from Technova? The one you thought I was crazy for considering? The 12-figure offer? Yeah, Jake, I remember thinking you'd lost your mind for even entertaining it. We're nowhere near ready to sell. I signed it yesterday." The silence that followed was different from the one at Marcus's party. This wasn't shock born of disbelief. This was Jessica processing information at light speed, the way she always did when the game changed completely. "You sold the company?" "We sold the company. 50-50 partners, remember? Which means, as of yesterday afternoon, we're both worth more money than we know what to do with." Jessica stared at me for a long moment, then started laughing. Not the polite laughter you hear at family gatherings, but the kind of uncontrolled, genuine laughter that comes when the universe reveals it has a sense of humor after all. "So tonight," she said between laughs, "you didn't just show up at your brother's party in a Ferrari to prove a point. You showed up as someone who just became one of the youngest tech entrepreneurs in Colorado history to sell a company for over $1 billion. Technically, yes. And they have no idea. They're about to find out. Technova's announcing the acquisition Monday morning. It's going to be all over the tech news, and knowing my family, someone will definitely send them the articles." Over the next few days, the family dynamics shifted so dramatically it was like watching a nature documentary about changing ecosystems. Dad, who'd spent years lecturing me about practical career choices, suddenly wanted to have long conversations about entrepreneurship and innovation. Mom started telling her friends about her successful tech executive son. Apparently I'd been promoted from son who needs to figure things out to tech executive overnight. But Marcus's reaction was the most fascinating to watch. The brother who'd spent years positioning himself as the family success story was now grappling with the reality that his younger brother had lapped him so thoroughly that they weren't even running the same race anymore. He called me 3 days after the party. "I owe you an apology." "Do you?" "Come on, man. You know I do. We all do. But I need to understand something. Why didn't you tell us? Why let us think? Why let us treat you like a failure? That's not what I meant." "Marcus, that's exactly what you meant. For 3 years, you all treated me like I was the family charity case. Every gathering, every conversation, every time my life came up, it was with this tone of pity and condescension. Did you think I couldn't hear it?" There was a long pause. I guess I thought I was being protective, looking out for my little brother. By making sure I knew my place? That's not fair. Isn't it? Marcus, you introduced me to people as your little brother who's still figuring things out. At your engagement party, you told Sarah's parents that I was finding my way. You weren't protecting me, you were protecting your position as the successful one. The conversation that followed was the first honest discussion Marcus and I had ever had about our family dynamics. It wasn't easy, and it didn't magically fix 3 years of accumulated resentment, but it was a start. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source, Aunt Linda. She showed up at my apartment a week later, no announcement, just knocked on the door like she used to do when I was a kid, and she'd come by to drop off birthday presents or cookies. "I need to tell you something," she said when I let her in. "About that night at your graduation party. When everyone was laughing." "Aunt Linda, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She sat down on my couch, looking around the apartment that probably cost more per month than she made in a year. "I was the one who told your parents they needed to manage your expectations. I was the one who said you were setting yourself up for disappointment." I'd never heard this before. "I thought I was helping," she continued. "I thought if we could get you to be more realistic, you wouldn't get hurt when things didn't work out the way you hoped." But things did work out. They worked out because you didn't listen to us. Because you believed in yourself when none of us did. She wiped her eyes. "I'm proud of you, Jake. And I'm sorry it took a Ferrari in Marcus's driveway for me to have the courage to say it." The unexpected twist came 3 weeks later, when Jessica and I were having dinner at Guard and Grace, one of Denver's best steakhouses, celebrating the final closing of the Technova deal. "There's something else I need to tell you," she said, and something in her voice made me put down my fork. "The MIT computer science degree? The venture capital experience? All those credentials that made you trust me as a business partner." "Yeah. I dropped out of MIT sophomore year. The VC experience was a 6-month internship where I mostly fetched coffee. And when you met me, I was working at a tech support call center, trying to figure out how to pay rent." I stared at her. "I believed in your vision so much that I lied about my qualifications to convince you to let me join. Everything I learned about business, about technology, about strategy, I learned working with you. You didn't just build a billion-dollar company, Jake. You also turned a college dropout into someone who deserves to be your partner." The story had come full circle. We'd both been underestimated, both had something to prove, both had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Looking back now, 6 months after that night in Marcus's driveway, I understand something I couldn't see when I was 17 and angry and tired of being dismissed. The people who underestimate you aren't always doing it out of malice. Sometimes they're doing it out of fear that if you succeed beyond their imagination, it means they've been thinking too small about their own lives. My family's treatment of me wasn't really about me at all. It was about their own limitations, their own fears, their own need to keep the world manageable and predictable. When someone you've categorized as the dreamer suddenly becomes more successful than you thought possible, it doesn't just change how you see them, it forces you to question everything you believe about success, about risk, about the price of playing it safe. Jessica and I are launching our next venture next month. This time, we're not keeping it secret. This time, when my family asks what I'm working on, I tell them. Not because I need their approval anymore, but because I've learned that success isn't about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. Marcus and I have dinner once a month now. Real dinner, real conversations, not the surface-level family gathering small talk we used to default to. He's actually thinking about leaving his corporate job to start his own company. "I've been playing it safe my whole life," he told me last week. "Watching what you built makes me realize that maybe safe isn't the same thing as smart." Mom still introduces me as her tech executive son, but now she also asks genuine questions about what I'm working on, about what I'm learning, about what's next. Dad and I talk about business strategy and market trends. Even Aunt Linda sends me articles about entrepreneurship with notes like, "Thought you'd find this interesting." The Honda? I still have it. It sits in my garage next to the Ferrari and the McLaren and the Lamborghini, a reminder that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. Sometimes I take it for drives through the old neighborhood, past the apartment where I used to live paycheck to paycheck, past the coffee shop where Jessica and I sketched out our first business plan on napkins. The grand gesture worked exactly as planned, but the real victory wasn't the look on their faces when I drove away in the Ferrari. The real victory was building something I was proud of, with someone I respect, in a way that created value for millions of people. The Ferrari was just the exclamation point. If you're watching this and you're the one in your family who dreams too big, who takes risks that make everyone else nervous, who gets told to be realistic about your expectations, keep going. The people who love you will come around when you prove that their fears were bigger than your limitations. And if they don't? Well, success is its own family. The most unexpected part of this whole journey wasn't the money or the recognition or even the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. It was discovering that the person who believed in me most wasn't someone who'd known me my whole life. It was someone I met when I was brave enough to bet on myself. And now? Jessica's my business partner, my best friend, and as of last Tuesday when I proposed with a ring that costs more than Marcus's Tesla, she's also my fiancée. Turns out building something together is a pretty solid foundation for building a life together too. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for permission to be ambitious. Stop seeking approval for dreams that scare other people. Start building something that matters to you, with people who believe in what you're building, and let success speak louder than any explanation you could ever give. The next time someone tells you to be realistic about your expectations, smile and say thank you. Then go out and exceed their wildest imagination of what's possible. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. Sometimes it's proving yourself so thoroughly right that wrong doesn't even enter the conversation. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated is just another word for having room to surprise people. And let me know in the comments, what's the dream that everyone told you was too big? Because I guarantee you, someone watching this video needs to hear that they're not the only one who refuses to think small. Thanks for listening. Now go build something that would make your 17-year-old self proud.